Latin grammar is very different from English grammar in that Latin uses inflected words to give a phrase or sentence meaning, where English relies much more on word order. Latin grammar, like that of other ancient Indo-European languages, is highly inflected, and so allows for a large degree of flexibility in choosing word order. For example, the sentence femina tagam textuit, meaning the woman wove a toga, represents the preferred word order. However, the meaning could also, if less commonly, be expressed correctly as textuit tagam femina or tagam textuit femina. Each word suffix indicates the word's grammatical function as a subject, object and verb, respectively. Thus it provides the sentence with its particular meaning. To provide the necessary meanings, there are 5 regular declensions or forms for nouns and 4 regular conjugations or forms for verbs. But there are also some words that are inflected according to irregular patterns. Latin word order is generally subject, object, verb. However, variations on this are common, especially in poetry, and can also be used to express subtle nuances in prose. On the other hand, subject, verb, object word order was likely very common in ancient Latin conversation, as it is prominent in the Vulgate Bible and the Romance languages, which evolved from Latin. Latin does not have articles and so does not generally differentiate between, for example, a girl and the girl. Puella amat means both a girl loves and the girl loves. Unlike English, Latin usually places adjectives after nouns. Latin does use prepositions. Finally, Latin omits pronouns in situations where the meaning is already obvious. Often the form of the verb alone is generally sufficient to identify the agent or subject of the sentence. Latin also exhibits verb framing, in which the path of motion is encoded into the verb rather than in a separate word or phrase. For example, the Latin verb exit means he, she, it goes out. Verbs. Detailed information and conjugation tables can be found at Latin Conjugation. Latin verbs have numerous conjugated forms. Verbs have 4 moods, 2 voices, 2 numbers and 3 persons. They are conjugated in 6 main tenses. They have the subjunctive mood for the present, imperfect, perfect and pluperfect. Infinitives and participles occur in the present, perfect and future tenses. As well, they have the imperative mood for present and future. Conjugation is the process of inflecting verbs. A set of conjugated forms for a single word is called a conjugation. Latin verbs are divided into 4 different conjugations by their infinitives, distinguished by the endings -are, and -ia. Tenses. There are 6 tenses. Present describes actions happening at the time of speaking. The slave carries the wine home. Service vinim ad vilem portat. Building the tents. Present basis of the verb plus personal endings. Example: the verb amere, tenera, dicere, audire imperfect describes actions continuing in the past. The slave used to carry the wine home. Service vinim ad vilem portabat. Building the tents. Present basis of the verb plus temporal modal morpheme plus personal endings. Future describes actions taking place in the future. The slave will carry the wine home. Service vinim ad vilem portabit. Perfect describes actions completed by the present. The slave carried the wine home. Service vinim ad vilem portavit. Pluperfect describes actions occurring before another past action. The slave had carried the wine home. Service vinim ad vilem portaverit. Future perfect describes actions that will be completed sometime in the future. The slave will have carried the wine home. Service vinim ad vilem portaverit. Moods. There are 4 moods. Indicative, which states facts. The slave is carrying wine. Service vinim portat. Subjunctive or conjunctive, which is used for possibilities, intentions, necessities, and statements contrary to fact. May the slave carry the wine. Service vinim portat. The subjunctive is also used with the formation of subordinate clauses. We hoped the slave would carry the wine. Sperabemus ut service vinim portat. Imperative, used for commands. Carry the wine home, slave, porter vinum ad villam, serve. Infinitive, it can be translated as of two forms such as haber and porter, or as a verbal noun, having, carrying. Voices, there are two voices. Active if the verb is done by the subject. The slave carried the wine home. Servus vinum ad villam porter vit. Passive if the verb is done to the subject. The wine is carried home by the slave. Vinum ad villam a servo portatur. The wine was carried home by the slave. Vinum ad villam a servo portatum est. However, Latin grammarians attested 5 voices for Latin, namely active, passive, neuter, deponent and common. Nouns. Detailed information and declension tables can be found at Latin Declension. Nouns have 6 cases: nominative, vocative, accusative, genitive, dative and ablative. They have 3 genders: masculine, feminine and neuter, and serve a grammatical function, and necessarily to distinguish the sex of the object. They have 2 numbers, singular and plural. Declining is the process of inflecting nouns. A set of declined forms of the same word is called a declension. Most adjectives, pronouns and participles indicate the gender of the noun to which they refer or modify. Most nouns in the first declension are feminine, but a few are masculine. They are never neuter. Most in the second declension are masculine or neuter, but there are a few that are feminine, mainly the names of cities and some towns. Nouns in the third declension can be masculine, feminine and neuter in the consonant declension, feminine and neuter in the third vocal declension, and masculine and feminine in the mixed declension. Nouns in the fourth declension are masculine except for a few that are feminine and neuter. Nouns in the fifth declension are feminine except 2, dies and its compound form merides, which are sometimes, but not always, masculine. It is necessary to learn the gender of each noun because it is sometimes impossible to discern the gender from the word itself. One must also remember which declension each noun belongs to be able to decline it. Latin nouns are thus often learned with their genitive, as the latter gives a good indication for the declension to use and reveals the stem of the word. The nominative case is used to express the subject of a statement or following a copular verb. Servus ad villam ambulate. The slave walks to the house. The vocative case is used to address someone or something in direct speech. Festina, serve, hurry, slave. The accusative case is used to express the direct object of a verb or direction or extent of motion, and may be the object of a preposition. Dominus servos vituperabat quod non laborabant. The master cursed the slaves because they were not working. The genitive case is used to express possession, measurement, or source. In English, the preposition of is used to denote this case, or, in the case of possession, the English possessive construction. Servus laborat in villa domini. The slave works in the house of the master, or the slave works in the master's house. The dative case is used to express the recipient of an action, the indirect object of a verb. It is used as well to represent agency in a construction with a passive periphrastic. The dative is never the object of a Latin preposition. In English, the prepositions to and for most commonly translate this case. Servut rediderant pecuniam diminis. The slaves handed over the money to the masters. The ablative case, whether or not preceded by a preposition, is used to express separation, indirection, or the means by which an action is performed. In English, the prepositions by, with, and from most commonly translate this case. Dominus in cubiculo dormiabat. The master was sleeping in his bedroom. The locative case is used to express the place in or on which or the time at which an action is performed. The locative case is very rare in Latin and applies only to the names of cities and small islands and to a few other isolated words. All other nouns use the ablative with a preposition to serve the same purpose. In form, it is identical to the genitive case in the singular of the first and second declension and the ablative case otherwise, with some exceptions. The noun domus has the locative domi, and the noun tempus has the locative tempori. Service Roma erat. The slave was in Rome. Articles, determiners and personal pronouns. Detailed information and declension tables can be found at Latin declension. In Latin, there is no indefinite article or definite article. The function of articles, when really necessary, is usually expressed by the determiner quidem, quidem, quodam for the indefinite article. Homo quidem debubat ultra fluvium transfera lupum, caprum, a fasciculum corli. A man had to carry beyond the river a wolf, a goat and a bunch of kale, and by the determiner is each id for the definite article. Quo each pecunia pervenrit, into whose hands the money has passed. Pervenrit is in the tense that makes the correct form, has, not, had. But normally words are alone, without any determiner around them. However, as tendence, the absence of any determiner expresses the function of a definite article. Indetermination, indeed, when it really exists, must be explicitly expressed in order to avoid confusion. In Latin there are also demonstratives, such as hic, haec, hoc, il, illa, allude, iste, ista, istud, and is, each, id. As in English, these can act as pronouns as well. There are also possessive adjectives and pronouns, cardinal and ordinal numbers, quantifiers, interrogatives, etc. Iste, ista, istud also could be used to describe someone or something contemptible. Personal pronouns also exist, for first and second person, in both singular and plural. Ego, nos in the first, tu, vos in the second. Ordinarily a pronoun is not used for the subject of a verb, the function being served by the inflection of the verb. Adjectives. Detailed information and declension tables can be found at Latin declension. Adjectives must agree with the nouns they modify in case, number, and gender. Thus, Latin adjectives must be declined as well. First and second declension adjectives are declined identically to nouns of the first and second declension. Unless the word in question is in poetry, adjectives are generally placed after the nouns they modify. Degrees of comparison adjectives exist, like in English, with positive, comparative and superlative forms. Superlative adjectives are declined according to the first and second declension noun paradigm, but comparative adjectives are declined according to the third declension noun paradigm. When used in sentences, there are three ways to handle the declension of the thing to which the comparison is made. With quam it matches the word with which it is being compared. If comparing a part to the whole, the partitive genitive is used. Use the ablative of degree of difference. Examples. Cornelia est fortis puella. Cornelia is a strong girl. Cornelia est fortior puella quam Flavia. Cornelia is a stronger girl than Flavia. Cornelia est fortior puella Flavia. Cornelia is a stronger girl than Flavia. Cornelia est fortior puellarum. Cornelia is the stronger of the girls. Cornelia est fortior puella. Cornelia is a rather strong girl. Cornelia est fortissima puella omnium, inter omnes, ex omnibus. Cornelia is the strongest girl of all. Detailed information and declension tables can be found at Latin declension. Adverbs. Adverbs modify verbs, adjectives and other adverbs by indicating time, place, or manner. Latin adverbs are indeclinable. Like adjectives, adverbs have positive, comparative, and superlative forms. The positive form of an adverb can be formed from an adjective by appending an adverbial suffix to the base, typically ita, itus, more rarely o, or The adjective claris, which means bright, can be contrasted to the adverb clair, which means brightly. The comparative form of an adverb, formed from third declension adjectives, is extremely simple. It is the same as the neuter nominative singular form of a comparative adjective and it usually ends in ius. Instead of the adjective clarior, which mean brighter, the adverb is clarius, which means more brightly. The superlative form is also extremely simple. It has exactly the same base as the superlative adjective and always ends in a long e. Instead of the adjective clarissimus, which mean brightest, the adverb is clarissima, which means most brightly. Prepositions. A prepositional phrase in Latin is made up of a preposition followed by a noun phrase in an oblique case. The preposition determines the case that is used, with some prepositions allowing different cases depending on the meaning. For example, Latin takes the accusative case when it indicates motion and the ablative case when it indicates position. Numerals and numbers. Only the first three numbers have masculine, feminine, and neuter forms fully declined as if they were normal adjectives. Unuse, una, unum, duo, dui, duo, tres, trio. Unuse has mostly first and second declension endings, but I uses the normal genitive singular and I the normal dative singular ending. Duo has an irregular declension. On the other hand, trio is a regular third declension adjective with the stem tr. The numbers quatu or through decem are not declined. Quatu or quinque sex septem octo novem decem, the tens numbers are also not declined. Viginti, triginta, quadriginta, quinquaginta, sexaginta, septuaginta, octoginta, nonaginta. The numbers chapter 11 to 17 are formed by affixation of the corresponding digit to the base decim, hence undecim, duodecim, tredecim, quatuordecim, quindecim, sedecim, septendecim. The numbers chapter 18 and 19 are formed by subtracting 2 and 1, respectively, from 20. Duodiviginti and undiviginti. For the numbers chapter 21 to 27, the digits either follow or are added to 20 by the conjunction a. Viginti unuse or unuse aviginti, viginti duo or duo aviginti, etc. The numbers chapter 28 and 29 are again formed by subtraction. Duoditriginta and unditriginta. Each group of 10 numerals through 100 follows the patterns of the 20s, but 99 is nonaginta novem rather than asterisk undecentum. Compounds ending in 1, 2 and 3 are the only ones to decline. I saw 20 blackbirds equals viginti meriles vd. I saw 22 blackbirds equals viginti duas meriles vd. The hundreds numbers are the following: centum ducenti, a tricenta, a quadringenti, a quingenti, a sessanti, a septingenti, a octingenti, a nongenti, a. However, 1000 is mil, an indeclinable adjective, but multiples such as duo milia or duo milia have milia as a neuter plural substantive followed by a partitive genitive. I saw 1000 lions equals mil leones vd. I saw 3000 lions equals triamilia leonim vd. Ordinal numbers are all adjectives with regular first and second declension endings. Most are built off of the stems of cardinal numbers from triginta, sessantesimus, a, nonus, a, for sessantinovem. However, first is primus, a, and second is secundus, a,